Hello and welcome to Perspectives, where we take a deep dive into the issues of the day and where we take a look at people's opinion on such issues. I am Ruth Osime. Welcome back to Perspectives here on Arise News. As International Women's Month draws to a close, it's a moment to reflect on the progress made and the work still ahead. Women continue to break barriers and assert their places in leadership, yet challenges persist. True success should not come at the expense of enduring bias or being silenced. Instead, women must confidently take their place at the table, ensuring their voices are heard and respected, not as a concession, but as a right. The clash at the Senate Ethics Committee hearing between Dr. Obi Ezekwesili and Senator Onyekachi Nwaebonyi was never just a heated exchange. It was an attempt to silence a woman who dared to challenge the status quo. In claiming provocation, Senator Nwaebonyi didn't just insult one woman, he discredited the very institution he serves, one already losing credibility in the court of public opinion. And in his short-sightedness, he forgot that the woman he sought to demean holds influence far beyond Nigeria's borders. If we let such behavior go unchecked, we will be sending a dangerous message that power belongs only to those who seek to suppress others, rather than those who earn it through merit, integrity, and resilience. Let this be a turning point. No woman should be silenced, intimidated, or diminished in her pursuit of justice and equality. We're heading for a short break. But stay with us, because coming up shortly in a conversation with Dr. Obi Ezekwesili, the indefatigable, witty, and cerebral Nigerian due process advocate. Perspectives return in just a moment. Welcome back to Perspectives here on Arise News. Well, in a week that bubbled with a lot of interesting developments, especially in the center of Nigeria's legislative and governance structures, what I'm about to show you definitely stood out and may have gone some way in underscoring a very dangerous stereotype. Be right back.
Have you respect yourself? Will you shut up and take him out? Smell him out. Smell him out. Look like a dog. Look at you. Big fool at 70. Fool at 70. Let him talk like that. Have I been a senator?
I take exception to a senator.
Why are you talking to me like that?
You are a disgrace to the Senate.
You are an insult to womanhood.
You are
an insult to womanhood. And you are here to tell the world that you have not changed.
You cannot violate
you are here to tell the world that you have not changed.
You are.
At 70, you have not changed.
You are a scoundrel.
And we're stopping to take it. I will not take it.
You are a scoundrel.
I will not take it.
So insult.
That is why you can never be here. People like you can never be here. People like you can never be here. How can you be? How can you be a fool?
Not a hooligan.
You are a hooligan.
You are a hooligan. So you will be.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
The Senate committee chairman of the committee. Chairman of the committee.
And you say I should keep my mouth shut. Who are you to say so?
Chairman.
Who are you to say so?
Chairman.
Who are you?
I asked to be brutal.
Okay, officer.
And you refuse.
Chairman of the committee.
Mr. Chairman, sir. Mr. Chairman, sir.
Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, sir.
Chairman of the committee.
To think that that happened live. Anyway, it's now time to usher in my August guest on this installment of Perspectives. And she's the woman you just saw there. Dr. Obi Ezekwesili is a Nigerian economic policy expert, advocate for transparency, accountability, good governance, and human capital development, a humanitarian and an activist. Amongst many things, Dr. Ezekwesili is a former vice president of the World Bank Africa region, co-founder and founding director of Transparency International, co-founder of the #BringBackOurGirls movement and has served twice as federal minister in Nigeria. She's also the founder of #FixPolitics Initiative, a research-based citizen-led initiative, the School of Politics Policy and Governance, SPPG, and Human Capital Africa. Feels great to have you here on Perspectives. HM, how are you? That was a very...
Thank you so much.
That was a very vitro, that was a
great.
very strong attack. A lot of women would not be able to survive that. So let's start. Let's start. You refused, or rather you declined to take an oath before presenting your testimony at the Senate Ethics Committee. And obviously this must have led to the heated exchange on live TV where Senator Uwam Eboyin launched a shocking tirade against you, one of the most vile attacks ever witnessed on TV, especially towards a woman of your stature. First and foremost, why did you refuse to take that oath? And then also, secondly, remember that Senator Akpoti Uduaghan was swiftly suspended for speaking out, yet no similar action has been taken against this Senator Uwam Eboyin for his public misconduct. So what message do you think this sends?
Thank you so much, Ruth. I think that the first thing is to establish the context in which all the things that unfolded happens. So Senator Akpoti Uduaghan couldn't, of course, be at the Senate session, the Ethics Committee session, because she's banned from coming anywhere near the National Assembly. And so the person who went was the person who, according to the Senate rules, signed her petition. That's Mr. Suberu. And when you saw us there, myself and Dr. Abiola Akinode Afolabi, it was basically in two capacities. She as a witness as well as a counsel to the petitioner, that's Mr. Suberu. Abiola is well known for Dr. Abiola Akinode Afolabi is well known for being at the center of women organizations in this country, as well as being an incredible intellectual who lectures as well as is dean of the SPPG. I was there as a witness on the basis of global practices of what we have seen in other countries where these issues of sexual and gender-based violence have become quite topical. I serve as the chair of the board of Women Political Leaders, which is the flagship global organization that brings together women, high-ranking women in politics. So presidents and prime ministers that are women, parliamentarians that are women, cabinet ministers that are women, past and present. And I took on that responsibility 2 years ago when I succeeded former Prime Minister of New Zealand, Helen Clark, to begin to share the board. And so as a board member of this important organization that focuses on issues of promoting and advancing women in politics and public leadership more broadly, I was a witness at that session in order to enable me bring a perspective, as I have all done in other places, on why nations, why countries must take the matter of sexual harassment or sexual violence very seriously. And so when we arrived, the petitioner started by raising two concerns. He called them objections that he wanted the committee to consider and to give him a persuasive response to. And those two objections were that, number one, he was not confident of an impartial conversation with the committee because he adjudged the committee to already have taken public positions at different times on the matter of his senator for whom he signed the petition. And so that he wanted a consideration for an impartial panel. And then, number two, he said his senator, Senator Akpoti Uduaghan is his primary witness. That she really is his principal witness, and that without her in this room, it would be impossible for him to fully convey the facts of the matter, and so that he was asking that she be allowed to join in the session. So, but because she's been banned, because she's been suspended, she's not in the session, and that he feels shortchanged by that. Ooh. As soon as he said that, oh my God, the immediate response was, "We're here for serious things. You know, we're not on serious in this place." It was quite shocking that would be the reaction of the chair of the committee to a real concern that was being raised. There was no civility in that interaction, in the response that was being given. The petitioner kept saying, "But I can't swear to an oath." And they just basically were forcing him to go into the petition. And he kept saying, "I can't go into the petition. These objections matter, so you have to resolve them for me." In which case they said, "Well, that means you don't want to testify. And so we don't have time for wasting our time." And it was that time that Dr. Abiola Akinode said, "No, he wants to testify, and the three of us would be willing to, take the oath. But these two objections needed to be addressed. They wouldn't hear it. Different of them that were the members of the committee and non-members that joined them as though they were members of the committee just kept coming after our side of the table with all kinds of statements that were frankly very unsavory. And in the way that they carried on, it gave and enabled the senator that you were referring to the opportunity to barge into the talk that was coming from our own side, because at some point we then agreed that the petitioner should swear into an oath. I still at that time hadn't agreed to swear in. Then he swore into the oath and used that opportunity to start with his objections. And they still said to him, "No, we don't want to talk about any objections. You wrote this petition, so please just go straight to it." The counsel, Dr. Akinode, protested that. They shut down her mic and said she could not talk. You did not, you're not supposed to talk here. It's against our rules. I tried to talk. They shut the mic down and said they did not want to hear from any of us, that we refused to take the oath. So at that point, seeing what that petitioner was going through, I said, "Let me, swear into the oath." As I kept putting my hand for them to swear me into an oath, they ignored it. They at that point in time, they just simply ignored it. And then this senator just took the liberty of the environment that had enabled him to, make all kinds of, remarks that were very diminishing of the petitioner. And so as I was still trying to get them to allow me be sworn into an oath so that I could at least add something that could be helpful to breaking the logjam, he then said, "Oh, swear me into an oath, I am here, I am prepared to testify." So because, they are not serious, they are wasting time, it was that moment that I said, "Can you please shut up?" Because, there comes a moment when we must face up to some of these kinds of behavior. What I saw playing out in that session that day was a repeat of what had happened when the senator that petitioned against the Senate president was trying to get heard. And all they did was to use the rules of the Senate and just shut down the possibilities, the real need for a conversation that could have been civil. And so all of that then made the environment so toxic. It was that sense that they had the dominance over the side of the citizens that were engaging them, that really was totally inappropriate. I have never seen a situation where people who are in public office assume that it is only their way or the highway. And so I simply, yes. So I simply have said to people who said, oh, but maybe you shouldn't have told him to shut up. I said, well, you know, it is very easy for you outside of the context in which we were to have an opinion on what could have been said. At that moment in time, all I was indicating is, gentlemen, enough is enough. You cannot badger us on as though we're not citizens, because I did make the point that under the Constitution and through established laws, it is very clear that if someone has an objection, you listen to it. And to you to railroad and basically, knock us on the basis of the fact that you are senators and you're using and misusing the so-called Senate rules to do that. So when he became rambunctious and disruptive and basically condescending to the petitioner, I simply said to him, can you shut up? I had my hand up asking to be sworn in, and you were basically deriding the side of the petitioner. No. In this democracy, we must not in any way assume that the powers of public office now reduces any citizen to being one who does not have a voice. The voice is guaranteed a citizen in our Constitution, and that was important to establish. So it was an enough is enough moment, not just for the senator, but for all people who hold public office, that when citizens are in dialogue or conversation with you, you cannot assume that we have given you monopoly of power to basically trample on the power, on the voice of citizens. We have not been given the power to abuse your privilege and your office simply because you happen to be called senators.
Okay. It's interesting that
and
you say that.
On what you said about...
Go on. You can answer the second question. The one I asked about... the same punishment to be given to him for his own outburst?
Well, you know, as far as I know, citizens haven't come to the realization that what we have is a distortion of democracy in our land. What has happened is that while citizens looked away, leaving the matter of engaging public institutions to a few, these people amassed so much power, and somewhere in their mind, they became higher than even our Constitution and our laws. So the concept of the rule of law is now practiced in the breach by our political class. They simply think that there is an imperial power that they possess. And so when you look at what the Senate did to Senator Uduaghan, it was born out of the fact that, how dare you even contest something that the one who is sitting as the boss of this place makes him uncomfortable. So it is not about the dialogue, not about the conversation, not about the interest to respond to the demand for public accountability. Without public accountability, a democracy cannot deliver any of the things that citizens of Nigeria are looking for. And that was the point I was going to make to them, that the Senate had the most incredible opportunity to reveal to Nigerians that this is an institution that Nigerians can trust. Because when there is a lack of trust of public institutions, the whole concept of governance becomes not as effective as it should be, and therefore it delivers suboptimally.
Okay. We are going on a break now, but we'll be right back because there's so many questions I want to ask you on this matter. So Viewers, grab your cup of tea, as I always say, and see you right back in a minute or two. Welcome back to Perspectives. So, Honourable Minister, let me ask you, with cases like this repeatedly surfacing, does Nigeria's political system have the will to reform its handling of sexual harassment allegations, or is this just another cycle of suppression? And with the case now in court, do you believe the ruling could set a legal precedent for how such allegations involving high-ranking officials are future addressed in Nigerian politics?
I think that, the matter of cases in court would need to be properly situated. Natasha does not have a case in court on her petition against the Senate president. In fact, I take back my word. Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan does not have a case in court, against the Senate president for sexual harassment. She has a case in court for defamation of her person by the Senate president and his aides, who, as immediately that event of the February 20th happened in the Senate, went online and cyberbullied her so much and put out all kinds of defamatory stories about her person. That was the case that she has in court. She doesn't have a case on the sexual harassment. What she did was to listen to the Senate, which said our rules require that a petition that is properly signed by someone else other than yourself be laid before the Senate, and it will be referred to the appropriate committee. And they are two different things. Her case on sexual harassment is with the Senate. It's not yet with any court. But there is another case which is not filed by her. And that is the case that the wife of the Senate president, Senator Akpabio's wife, had instituted against her. She hadn't mentioned Mrs. Akpabio in her defamation, nor in her petition to the Senate, which was referred to the committee. So this case of the Senate president's wife is a case saying you defamed me by the allegations that are out there concerning her husband. So there is no case in court on sexual harassment that has emanated from Senator Uduaghan. Okay. And why is that the case, I asked. And the answer was basically that within the Senate, the rules are that you access the internal redress mechanisms as senators before you step out of it. So she's acting within those rules that were the basis for which she was also slamped on another matter of the sitting allocation. So we do need to separate this clearly so that we know what we're dealing with. And so that then leads us to an important matter, which is that on that same day, at the Senate committee session, the ethics committee session, do you know that after all that happened, after all the badgering of the petitioner to testify and to give them the evidence that he had for his allegations, for the allegations of his senator, the Senate committee chair sprang something on the petitioner by saying, "Oh, I believe you have received 2 court cases that make it sub judice for us to entertain the matter of the petition on sexual harassment." My goodness. Honest. More. Therefore, then immediately the petitioner came into the into that session and you started the meeting, that would be the first thing you communicate. We're not going to do this because there are cases in court. And then it will be left to his counsel to say, which cases are you referring to? And then there would have been a conversation on that. So they didn't do that. They simply said, based on these 2 cases in court, we're not going to, continue on this matter. So we adjourn and we end the conversation. My goodness. Nigerians are really not yet understanding that there is some measure of criminality that is going on in governance in our country. Mm-hmm. This kind of level of, this kind of level of
misogyny,
dishonest
perhaps?
actions by those who, it's just unbelievable that this whole thing was for them a charade to be seen as having invited the petitioner and then to wash their hands off quickly. Well, what they did not actually and have not yet considered is that the legitimacy of this entire Senate as the highest lawmaking organ of our society is shaky. It is shaky because you cannot have a case like this against a high-ranking officer of our country, and what you just want to do is to dodge the necessity for you to provide the environment, a healthy environment for this to be investigated, for there to be a public hearing on it, for the 2 parties to the matter to have the opportunity to speak and make clear what it is that they allege and what they counter allege. So it is really a sad thing that the Senate is not reading the room. They are not reading the room in terms of how society is progressively coming to the understanding that a public institution like the Senate must act within the construct of social contract with the citizens. Social contract is requiring of an accountability in a matter that has really come all the way to the top of our public agenda. Okay. The misuse of this opportunity by the Senate suggests something. It suggests that they don't realize that in other places where some of this same issue of sexual harassment has happened, society made progress by tackling it very well. So, for example, the Me Too movement in the US, when it happened, a lot of changes happened within the workplaces, even within some states in the US. And you know what the value of that? The value of those kinds of progress where anti-sexual harassment policies and laws and procedures of accessing redress were put in place. It just creates a healthy environment for people to thrive, for societies to do well. Societies that have paid attention to these kinds of matters are societies that have provided the opportunity for everyone to be at their maximum, to be at their best. Now, in our societies where we sort of don't use opportunities of the kind that the Senator Uduaghan and Senator Akpabio saga has given us end up doing, is they end up sending signals that their democracies will not enable voice. It would not enable the right to fair hearing. Fair hearing is an important piece in the whole constitutionalism of our democracy. And so without taking advantage of this as an opportunity for the Senate to lead the society forward on this matter, the senators are simply saying to us, you might as well be in a military space, because the voice, the accountability, and all the nuances and ethos and principles of democracy are being trampled on.
Okay, it's good that you talked about the Me Too movement. One thing I have noticed, though, I must be honest with you, is that you are the forefronter in this fight or in this matter. Why aren't there more women like you in powerful positions also coming out to support Senator Natasha? From the falsified recall petitions to character assassinations, why have so many women in positions of power chosen to remain silent? Because that in itself also sends a message. What is behind their lack of support? And how many women would experience this and have the courage to go forward next time? To come forward?
So, Ruth, well, you do ask a good question. However, I always love to be contextual. And because without context, it is very difficult to get to the right conclusions on a matter. Because, take for instance, people who assume that shut up was the first thing that happened. It wasn't the first thing that happened. There was a pattern of behavior that led to shut up. But if you don't know that context, it will be difficult for you to fully appreciate it. So I go back to your question on this matter of why does it appear as if I am the only publicly visible woman who is taking on this matter. I take on this matter from also my many years of demanding public accountability. I would say that perhaps in my generation, I probably am the one who does this the most in this country. I mean, I'm not talking out of, suppositions. I am talking out of what I know. Yeah. The truth is, when I was in government, even before I was in government, I'm sure you know that I was a co-founder of Transparency International, and that,
Madam Due Process.
By virtue of that role,
you referred to as Madam Due Process.
Madam Due Process came down the line. That came later. During the era of the military, in 1993, Transparency International, as a global body that put the matter of addressing corruption globally, was established, was founded. I was one of the co-founders of that organization. I was one of the pioneer directors of the board of that organization in Berlin, Germany. So this matter of transparency, public accountability has been a mission for me. And so I then do other things. I work for Kennedy School, on the basis of which I returned into the country to do the reform of the public procurement, on the basis of which you are calling me Madam Due Process. And in that government, you can ask anybody, I was the voice for accountability. As a matter of fact, I was the chair of the sub-team on anti-corruption, public accountability, transparency, and good governance. So I shared that. The EFCC, ICPC, and all the bodies, NMPC, the tax administration, all of them were part of that team. I was responsible for it. I leave government. I work at the World Bank as VP. The issue of good governance, accountability, has been a cornerstone of the things that I have done on economic governance. I leave the World Bank. I am continuing to put that on the lens, on the top agenda of our continent, because research shows that if we do not address issues of governance and the need for public accountability, we're not going anywhere in terms of economic growth and development and therefore prosperity of our people. So I go to this lens to say all of this, that because by 2014, everything that I did, following my time of moving on to work with a number of presidents on the continent, advising them as their economic advisor under the Africa Economic Development Policy Initiative, everything about my economic policy direction also focused on the need for good governance and public accountability. Now, between 2014 and this now, we have had 3 administrations. I have used my platform to hold those governments accountable as much as I did the government that I was in, on the basis of which they gave me that moniker, Madam Due Process. Now, in doing that, since 2014, on social media, Nigerians don't even know what I have seen. There is absolutely no insult that hirelings of the political class, the politicians, in one administration after the other, have rained on me, and it still hasn't deterred me. So what happened at the Senate the other day was, it was nothing. It was like water on the back of a duck. It was like water on the back of a duck, because what I have had to endure in terms of people wanting to shut down this voice that demands for accountability, this voice that says if others look away, I am not looking away, is horrendous. But it hasn't mattered, because you see, I am purpose-driven. If our continent will not become, because we fail to put the central things that have developed other societies, then someone like me, who has been privileged to have the life that I have had, cannot be comfortable. I cannot be comfortable. This is not about me. This is not about Senator Natacha. It is about a society that has all the possibilities to be great and then chooses to be a dwarf. That is not acceptable to me. It may be okay with others. I said clearly that I don't want to live as an inheritance was that my generation should have fought and won for our daughters and our granddaughters and our grandchildren more broadly to have to fight. So when you think of it that way, every woman would have to think whether indeed it aligns with how they see life. And unfortunately, what has happened is that as gender norms have forced women to choose the idea of, please don't make trouble. Don't make trouble. Don't be out there and having a voice. Keep quiet and just leave it alone. So that's exactly what I say to people, that please connect what is going on at the Senate to the general problem of the citizens who, knowing that they have been failed over and over again by their public leaders, still choose to not even say, we are not happy, we're not comfortable with the way we've been governed. You have to do differently. Societies where that kind of feedback happens are the societies that change the course of their history and begin to prosper. So for me, it's a longer-term issue of the systemic, structural, and institutional barriers that stand in the way of a Nigeria and Africa that could claim the 21st century based on the kind of humongous opportunities that we have. It really is in our hands. I would end on this particular side of your question by saying that actually there are at least 350 women-led organizations under what is known as the Women Manifesto organization in this country that have been standing with Senator Uduaghan. I also really appreciate the fact that we have seen very strong voices of men. So this whole thing to make it a woman and a man, no. Everyone who is reasonable is simply asking for one thing. Senators, why are you comfortable in dodging this allegation? Why are you not even informally advising the Senate president that when a person is accused of sexual harassment, they should be in a hurry to want to prove their innocence? But instead of doing that, what they have persistently been doing, and we see it, it's actually out there, so it's factual. What they've done is they want to discredit her, they want to shut her down, and then they went to the point of suspending her from the Senate for 6 months, which is against judicial precedent, actually against the Constitution. They've then now gone to procuring fraudulent recall process for her. Well, we're waiting. Let Nigerians watch that recall process. INEC should know that it's already in the bad books of the people of this country in the way it managed the 2023 election. Now it has another opportunity to even begin to redeem a little bit of its image and its credibility. It should not make the mistake of ruining it, because we know that the threshold for establishing a recall that is legitimate is pretty tough. And what we're asking is that those markers for doing so, like, the people who have said they are recalling her are not her constituency, are so giving her the support, the kind of legitimacy they conferred on her, because she's actually been an effective senator in terms of her relationship with her community, her constituents. So those who are thinking that they would take over all public institutions and appropriate them, which is what we call corruption. Our definition of corruption in Transparency International, is that it is the abuse of public office for private gain. It is the abuse of office, more broadly, for private gain. And that is something we must all stand against.
Okay, Dr. Obi, this is a very, very powerful talk that you've given us this morning, and I hope that a lot of women and men will go back to the drawing board and at least try and clean the image of the Senate as it is, because they have not passed the smell test. But first and foremost, I have to...
Ruth,
let me just quickly congratulate you.
I want to say... Okay.
I want to first and foremost, or lastly, congratulate you for being a recipient of the 65 Women with Impact Award, and we hope that we will see you on Monday. Yes. So for one last question to ask you concerning this award, what would you like to say to your co-recipients as to how they can further strengthen women to stand up against intimidation and oppression? How can we as a collective force make our stand stronger,
I think that,
and send a stronger message? Because you did say that a lot of women and a lot of NGOs have been supporting Senator Natasha, but they're not getting as much publicity as the ones supporting the Senate president. So what last word would you like to give to women like you who are receiving this award on Monday concerning our fight against intimidation?
So it is...
Go ahead.
Well, thank you very much for honoring the 65. Thank you very much for honoring the 65 women from across the spectrum of society. But I do want to underline the fact that those kinds of awards are awards that come by virtue of track record of having done significant work and impacted society. So congratulations to the other awardees for the Arise TV, Women's Award. The thing for us to say is your word, collective action, is very important. Collective action normally increases the prospects of success in anything where citizens want to change their society. Now, you know that power dynamics are at play in this. Nigeria is at the bottom of women representation in the parliament and in public office more broadly. We're at the bottom. Rwanda, for example, is at 61%. Our country is at less than 4%. That already tells you that we are not reading the evidence that shows that the more that a society tries to practice representation, the higher the prospects of governance producing good outcomes.
Thank you so much.
So when Nigerians talk about Rwanda, they must remember why there is a disconnect. So we just want to say that for the entire society, the way that men are supporting and saying the Senate must have this hearing and it must have an impartial investigation led by an investigator from the ICPC, it then must ensure that it is publicly broadcast. That is something that every one of us in our little corners must continue to push them to do so that they don't damage the credibility of our country. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, my darling, Honorable Minister, Dr. Obi Ezekwesili. You have really given me the most entertaining morning, and I hope our viewers also enjoyed you. Thank you so much for being with us on Perspectives. So to every woman watching, let this be our charge. Refuse to shrink. refuse to be silenced, and refuse to accept anything less than the respect and influence you have rightfully earned. The future belongs to those bold enough to claim it, and we will. To the esteemed recipients of the 65 Women with Impact Awards Arise Gala, the Board of Editors at Arise News Channel proudly celebrates your remarkable contributions as trailblazing female leaders and change makers in Nigeria. This award holds deep significance as we celebrate 65 years of Nigerian independence and also International Women's Month, honoring exceptional women whose leadership, resilience, and influence continue to drive progress and transformation. In our commitment to showcasing their impact on shaping our shared future, we unite these pioneers and powerhouses who have left an indelible mark across industries, professions, and communities. As a fellow honoree myself, I extend my heartfelt congratulations to all the awardees. See you at the event on Monday, March 31st. Don't be late. That's all we have time for today. You've been watching Perspectives here on Arise News with me, Ruth Osime. We shall be here same time next week, God willing. Until then, be happy and endeavor to be a part of this Arise celebration of Nigerian women. Goodbye.